Hey everyone, welcome into the Your Illini Nation pregame show. Andy Olson, Derek Piper from IlliniInquirer.com with you as we get you set for Illinois, Michigan tonight. Derek, it should be one of the more exciting matchups, one of the ones at least that we've looked forward to the most so far this season. I don't know if it's the battle for first place in the Big Ten that we thought it was going to be, but we're going to go over all of those things tonight. The Illini welcoming the Wolverines to Champaign. After they didn't come last year, they only had the game up in Ann Arbor in 2020/2021, which was a good one. Illinois blew them out without their best player, Ayo Dosunmu. We're going to go over all of this. Tip-off tonight is at 8 p.m., so there's still plenty of time to get here if you have tickets. If you're still looking for a ticket, you are out of luck. This game is sold out, and it's one that I know a lot of people are looking forward to, Derek. So we'll start there after what I'm sure a lot of people have seen Brad Underwood said about getting ready for this game yesterday, maybe checking out happy hour at a few of the establishments around Champaign-Urbana, and then not driving to the game, taking an Uber, taxi, whatever.
Absolutely.
But there is a lot of excitement, and I imagine the atmosphere in the building for this one is going to be something to look forward to.
Yeah, he wants this place rowdy. He wants it to be a big-time environment. Of course, sold out, as you mentioned. Maybe checking out StubHub if you really want to get into this building here tonight. I know great action when you think about Hunter Dickinson, Kofi Coburn battle in the middle, and just all of the build-up around Illinois and Michigan. And this is one that fans have had circled really since the summer when it came out that Michigan was coming to town. And I know that Hunter Dickinson's comments over the summer saying nobody likes Illinois poured more gasoline onto the fire. So this is one of those marquee matchups, the things you love about Big Ten basketball, just two really good teams. I know Michigan's 7-6. You could argue, is it a very good team? It's a very talented team that hasn't figured it out quite yet, coming off a COVID pause. And I know Illinois is hoping they run into a buzzsaw tonight with the way Illinois is trending, the environment that's going to be in here, and saw some crush lined up. I know it's still technically a break game because the second semester hasn't started yet, but I think a lot of them had an opportunity to buy those tickets, and I would imagine a handful of them, or a number of them, took advantage of that. So I've already seen a little poster of Kofi having a nice little edit of Kofi having Hunter Dickinson sit on his lap. You'll have to see that for yourself. I know it's floating around on Twitter, but going to have some fun in this building tonight, and hopefully a really good basketball game.
Yeah, I see a number of the Orange Crush have made it in already. I mean, you start classes on Tuesday, come back the weekend before. I don't know what you do in those nights on those weekend nights, but enjoy it before the semester gets started. I could see that. There might be some students here, but
and with this homestand, this two-game homestand of Michigan turning around Purdue.
A Monday 11 o'clock game, you know what they say about starting in the morning. We won't say the entire saying, but I'm sure anyone who went to college knows. All right, Derek, let's start with this COVID pause for Michigan. Illinois had a similar experience coming off that COVID pause against Minnesota a little bit more than a week ago. Now, what do you think Michigan is going to look like? I mean, I don't think anyone really knows, because when Illinois came off their COVID pause, they surprised me and certainly a lot of the Illini fan base by looking really good up in Minneapolis.
I know a lot of people have tried to dissect Juwan Howard's words from his media availability yesterday when he goes, we have the 7 players and 1 coach, which is, of course, the Big Ten standard to play a game. If you don't have that, you're going to postpone. Does that mean they have literally 7 players and 1 coach? I don't think so. I think he was saying we meet the requirements. And Brad mentioned you have to, on the coaching perspective, prepare as if they're going to be at full strength. Illinois was at full strength coming off of their COVID pause when they played at Minnesota, contrary to other than Curbelo being injured and Hutch, of course. But we'll have to see for sure. Could they potentially be missing a player or two tonight? It is possible, just based on the way those tests progress and the way it's spread throughout their program. But I would expect them to be at full strength, and it'll be interesting to see, because this was a program that was having a hard time getting on the right track even before that pause, without taking them off the practice court and having them probably a little bit discombobulated here in recent days, given the fact that they lost at Rutgers, they lost at UCF before that, they lost at home to Minnesota. So they've lost 3 of their last 4. They haven't played well against high major competition. So throwing the COVID pause, and even before that, they were a team that was trying to figure things out here in early January.
Yeah, and I know fans like to come up with the theories of maybe they're going to miss the Illinois game as well to try and duck the competition because they missed Michigan State and Purdue. Clearly not the case. They have the 7 and everything now. I think those theories can get put to rest that Michigan's trying to duck anyone. But I think what you bring up about not knowing who might be available for them, I think it's good to expect that they will be fully healthy and have everyone available, but the truth is, you and I don't know. No one really knows except for the people within the Michigan camp right now who is going to be available for them, and that could play into Illinois' favor, but I still think with the, I don't know if we call this a budding rivalry. It certainly feels like a rivalry between the fan bases with the amount of talk that's gone back and forth, but I think on the court tonight, we're going to see each team throw their biggest punches at each other because both teams really want this one after all the talk that's gone on.
Yeah, there's no question about it. You call it a rivalry, especially just the personal dynamic of the current players on the team, the coaches, of course the fan bases are all riled up and firing at each other on social media, giving any opportunity. Of course for Illinois, like Indiana is a lasting rivalry where no matter how many years down the road, Illinois and Indiana is going to be considered a rival. And on that similar note for Michigan, it would be Ohio State, Michigan State. So maybe long term, this has not been a rivalry. I know Illinois has had a healthy dislike for Michigan for a long time, and even going back to 1989 when they got beat by them in the Final Four. And just overall, you know, you're always chasing them in football, and they're a team that has some arrogance or whatever you want to call it when you're chasing a team that's had a lot of success. But there's no doubt about it, when you have Hunter Dickinson being very vocal, when you have the controversy about who should have been awarded the Big Ten title, should have been a co-championship, and just both sides kind of firing off on each other. There's a lot of emotion, a lot into this one, and Coleman Hawkins was not shy. I was glad we got a guy that's going to openly speak his mind. I don't know if Brad was glad about everything he had to say, but saying there's some hatred in this rivalry. There's a feeling of we don't like them, they don't like us. I know Io mentioned that with Iowa, and there's that same kind of feel. And I think that you think back to the end of that season, 2019-2020, the final regular season game in here against Iowa, and just not only the magnitude of the game, but just the fact of, hey, there's a lot of storylines working in here. I think you're going to see a similar environment tonight, just a similar type of buildup as we've gone into this game.
Yeah, and man, there's so many storylines going on in this game. I feel like this is probably, at least in my mind, the biggest Big Ten game of the season so far for the Illini, just based on everything that we've talked about so far. And Illinois has done such a good start to the Big Ten, trying to keep pace with Michigan State, who almost had a shocker yesterday when they almost fell to Minnesota. Or was that 2 days ago now? Was it?
I think it was 2 days ago.
2 days ago now.
We're all thrown out. We've been on the road too much, man.
We have been. I know you were in Nebraska as well, right? So you've been doing a lot of road trips. At least Brett went on that road trip for us, so I didn't have that. Let's talk about Hunter Dickinson a little bit more. You mentioned how Coleman was open with his thoughts, and if you watched the 6 o'clock news, the sports segment, you caught what Coleman said about the Kofi versus Hunter matchup that I know a lot of people like to talk about for best big man in the Big Ten. Probably have to throw Trayvon Williams and Zach Edey in there as well from Purdue in that conversation, but it's usually those two that get brought up as far as best big man in the Big Ten. If you missed that, you can check it online, WCIA.com, or Brett Barons on Twitter has also posted a couple of other things from the press conference yesterday that were certainly fun. But what are your thoughts, Derek, about where Hunter Kofi lies right now? Hunter is certainly scoring more than he did last year. I believe he's up 2 points per game, but Kofi, it just feels like he's on another level. I don't want to look at this as we see Kofi all the time, rose-colored glasses. You know, this is certainly a big matchup, and Kofi won the battle last year, but it's certainly not. I think one player is 100 times going to be better out of 100 times than the other.
Right, I don't think you'd expect Kofi to just utterly dominate Hunter. Sure. I know that you looked last year and Hunter went 1 for 8 from the field, so really wasn't able to get going offensively, and Kofi deserved a big credit for that because obviously it's hard to move that guy on the block when you're backing him down, but it's not like Kofi on this other end of the floor went for 20 and 15. He had 12 points, 7 rebounds. So as Brad mentioned yesterday, it was tough for either guy to score against each other. Kofi did have the advantage. I expect him to have the advantage tonight, but Hunter's a really good player. You got to give him his due. Averaging about 16 points, 9 rebounds a game, shoots it efficiently from the inside, has the ability to step out from the outside the paint, hit the mid-range game. He'll take threes. I think he takes too many of them. He's 5 for 19 from 3 this year, hit 3 for 3 against San Diego State. So really outside of one game getting hot from 3 has not been all that consistent. He has that ability. I wouldn't be surprised if he puts up a couple tonight, just knowing Kofi's not the best at getting out and contesting those type of shots. But it's a high-level battle. It's two guys that last year were in All-American conversations. I think that Hunter and Kofi both got second-team selections, and this year we're both in the conversation for preseason Big Ten Player of the Year. Of course, Kofi got the most votes for that, and guys that were considered All-Americans as well. So 2 of the best bigs really in the country. I do think Kofi has an edge. How big of an edge, we'll see. He's got to play better than he did against Nebraska. But this is the type of high-level big man battle this league has produced year after year here recently, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
I'm glad you brought up Nebraska. We can kind of break down the most recent Illini performance this past Tuesday, and what an interesting game for me being able to watch on TV, not being in the building, but talking with Brett on the 3-1 podcast after the game. He said there was no sense of panic, it seemed like, with the Illini group, even when they were down 16-4 early, and even when Kofi had to go to the bench at the under 4 mark, and they brought in Omar Payne. And let's start with Omar Payne in that game, because those final 4 minutes I felt like were some of his best with the Illini this season.
Yeah, he was really, really good. And I think that you don't win that game without him stepping up down the stretch. Kofi didn't play the last 4 minutes. I know it wasn't just he was fouled out. There was a good amount of that having to do with Omar was playing that well. And we've been waiting for it to click for a guy that's now playing his 3rd year at the high major level. Sure didn't put up big numbers at Florida, but we know that he has a lot of talent. He was highly rated as a prospect. And I think defensively, Brad's been talking about him for a couple of games now as you're working towards the middle of Big Ten play, and that he's figuring it out. And you can see the way that he's been able to contest shots around the rim. He had a couple of blocks against Minnesota when you came off the COVID pause. He had 4 blocks against Nebraska. So someone in that pick and roll coverage where sometimes Kofi struggles or doesn't defend as well as you would like to. The fact that Omar is more mobile, has a really long wingspan, 6'7", and can really get up and block those shots. That has been a very great value. And then caught a nice alley-oop there down the stretch from Trent Frazier. I think you'd like to see more of that from him. So you could tell in talking to him after the game that a little bit of a light bulb came on. I think with his confidence. Now, he's going to play a lot tougher tests in Nebraska, and not to slight them too much, but you're going to see Hunter Dickinson, you're going to see Zach Edey and Travion Williams coming up, and really as you push forward, you're going to see Michigan State here pretty soon. He's going to have to build on that. So whether that was an arrival moment or if he's going to play at a high level the rest of the way, he's going to have to prove that. But it was really at an ideal time, knowing the tests that are forward and knowing the way that Kofi was not very efficient as a scorer, and really he was worn out late in that game and was not playing very well.
I don't think that Omar's defense was ever in doubt. It just was a matter of if that offense would catch up as well, and I think it showed up big time against Nebraska, and getting that amount of depth, especially at that position as you get later into the season, I think it's going to be invaluable for Illinois if he's able to keep it up. And he brought up Trent Frazier, 29 points, the most that he's had since his sophomore season. I mean, it just seems like even if Kofi is having a bad night, it's always someone who's able to step up for Illinois. And Brad Underwood keeps bringing it up. That's how you win games, when sometimes shots aren't going down, and it seems like Illinois just keeps finding ways to win these games, and that is such an important quality for a team that's going to go far or wants to go far in the postseason.
Yeah, it says a lot about a team that has a number of different guys you can rely on. And during a stretch where in the last 2 games, Alfonso Plummer, who was red hot in December and just hitting about 4 or 5 threes a night with regularity, went 8 for 26 in his last 2 games from the field, so he's been scuffling a little bit. Granderson didn't have his best game. I know he hit a big 3 late, but overall against Nebraska. But to have Trent be able to pick up that slack and be doing what he's doing after the Io era, where he was willing to play Robin and say, hey, I can still score it, but I know I'm not the primary guy on the ball. And then all the talk of, okay, we're going to put the ball in Curbello's hands and let him run the offense. Now he's been out, and Trent has taken that upon himself to be more of a higher usage guy. He's doing great. We know that he can shoot the 3, but his plays off the dribble have been really impressive. Being able to break down the defense, get to the rim, get to his pull-up jumper, and then we know that he's playing phenomenal defense each and every night. He's not being talked about enough. I know he's not probably in the category of Johnny Davis or a Jaden Ivey, but he's one of the top players in this league, one of the top guards in this league, and deserves a lot more national credit for the run that he's put together.
Those 29 got him up into 11th on the all-time scoring list for Illinois. Playing 5 seasons helps with that, being able to get up there on that list. But he's knocking on the door of the top 10. We'll see. He should be able to break in there for all-time scorers in Illinois history by the end of this season. And Illinois being able to get that win, 5-0 for the first time in Big Ten play since 2005. Of course, that's the year they go to the national championship. And it's going to say, we're going to keep using that stat for a while, because that team started 15-0. So as long as Illinois keeps winning Big Ten games, you just keep going back to 2005. And starting out 6-0, and I think getting this win for Illinois. And then getting into the part of the schedule, you have Purdue, also coming up. Could be huge. And then you go to Maryland next week. You're going to start getting on road trips again. Like, what do you think this win can do to propel Illinois season forward? I'm not saying that they're not propelled already, but each win you start building some of that momentum, I think it just keeps getting bigger and bigger like a snowball for Illinois, and this momentum going. And that can really mean a lot as you get deeper into Big Ten play.
Yeah, you need to be able to hold serve at home. That's really important when you think about trying to win a league title. And Michigan State is 5-0 right there, and they have Northwestern this weekend, so you expect them to be 6-0. You got to be able to keep pace with them. I know it's easy to circle Purdue and say, what are the Boilers doing? Just based on all the hype that was on that program just a month ago and going into the preseason, thought to be a national title contender. Maybe they'll still figure that out, but there is a world where you beat Michigan, then you beat Purdue. You're 7-0. Purdue has already 3 losses. And you're up 3.5 games on them in the standings, and probably there'll still be a lot of basketball left to play, but maybe you put an early dagger into their Big Ten title hopes. But yeah, this is a huge stretch when you have those 2 games. You're gonna, after Maryland, Michigan State's coming to town. You're going to play Wisconsin in this building later on this month as well, and Wisconsin's been pretty impressive. They give them their due respect. I've been slow to buy all the way in on them, but they're doing some great things right now. So just building that cushion. This team has done a great job of taking care of business, beating teams they're supposed to beat, and now it's time to get tested a little bit more. But being at home, having this crowd, Michigan's not right now, so this is one that they should win, and it just goes a little bit further as you push that momentum towards being that Big Ten title, probably favorite, especially if you come out of this weekend. I'll count Monday as the weekend, 2-0.
Sure, yeah. This is such a fun time of the season. I mean, 25% done with Big Ten play, and again, we're not wishing it away. We're not trying to get ahead of ourselves, but this is when you start seeing some of the contenders versus pretenders reveal themselves. So you could start looking at these season-long things when we're talking about Big Ten championships and things like that. And winning your games at home, you're absolutely right that that's where it starts for Big Ten championships, is being able to win these kinds of games. And with Michigan coming in 7-6, or is it 6-5? I'm getting ahead of myself.
7-6.
7-6. I had it right the first time. 7-6 coming in, and I want to talk about for a second Devante Jones not getting out to the best start for Michigan. He was kind of the replacements for Smith coming in, and he just coming from Coastal Carolina hasn't really been able to do what he was doing at the Sun Belt Conference, and I think that's probably one of the big reasons why Michigan has struggled a little bit so far.
Yeah, the drop off from Mike Smith, who came from Columbia, and it was such a rarity for him to look. Grad transfers have been a big thing for a while now, but to have someone that really translates that well and plays at that high of a level, for him to shoot the 3 like he did last year and be one of the best guards in the Big Ten, to go to Devante Jones, where he averaged an impressive 19 points a game at Coastal Carolina, but you changed the level of competition, put him on a new squad with new, obviously, teammates and everything, and he hasn't lived up to that potential. So in December, he did start to figure out. He had 3 straight games of double figures, but then went their last outing at Rutgers, 31 minutes of scoreless. Like didn't score, 0 for 3 from the field, and you wonder about where his confidence is right now. He is a strong guard and get in the lane, can absorb some contact, so I wouldn't be surprised if he tries to do that to Trent Frazier, breaking him down off the dribble. Now, Trent's going to be on his hip everywhere he absolutely goes, and Trent does a good job of taking charges, but he's someone that can absorb a little bit of contact, also shoot the 3 if he has some space. He gets kind of a set shot, takes a little bit of while to get that thing off, but there's no doubt that him not being at a higher level, in addition to Caleb Houston, who we'll talk about, their 5-star freshman, one of 2, who struggled from 3. But no doubt, Devante Jones, in a league where you got good guards, not being up to par, that's been a big reason for their struggles.
Yeah, and you can kind of see behind us, Michigan is out here. So if there are any doubters, Michigan's here. They're going to play. I haven't done a head count who's available right now, but I'm sure a lot of the beat writers, including Derek and his team at 24/7, are going to be on that to see if anyone's missing from those Michigan warm-ups. But
so you're saying this conspiracy theories that I'm sure were going on at happy hour was we're going to get to State Farm and Michigan's just going to no-show and say, actually, we're not going to play. Those are out the window now.
No, out the window. Okay. They're here. They're here now. The game, it looks like, is going to happen. Now, who knows? I don't want to completely put them to bed, I guess, but they're here. I'm going to say it's going to happen. All right, you bring up Caleb Houston. Let's go right into him and those 3-point troubles that Michigan is having. And Illinois was sort of having those at Nebraska as well. Alfonso Plummer, who we talked about, hasn't been on his game, and certainly not the game that he was on in December. But do you think that's going to change now? Are the Rims going to be friendly tonight, or are both teams maybe going to find some struggles with that?
I think Illinois in their home building will find that three-point stroke again. But I think that I will say that Michigan has the big man in Dickinson, not to shut down Kofi, but to feel comfortable and, hey, we'll play one-on-one with Kofi. We will not be worried about him putting Hunter under the basket and dunking all over him. I mean, I think the Orange Crush would like to see that. Maybe it would once, but ultimately it's a guy that, like size, can tussle one-on-one in the paint. So that allows you to stay on shooters. It allows you to not put yourself in a disadvantage of trying to double team and leave a guy open. So that is something that Illinois will have to overcome. But I have a feeling that Alfonso Plummer will be firing off some arrows tonight into the crowd. As for Michigan, we'll see, man. Caleb Houston, 5-star talent, number 11 overall freshman. You look at the 24 composite rankings, 24/7 composite rankings, 6'8", very talented. Just has not been very consistent, and really last 4 games shot 2 for 15 from 3, and that's been a theme in their losses. When they have lost, their 6 losses combined, they've shot 25% from 3. So not having the floor spacing, having the lane tighten up for Hunter and really for their guards as well has been a weakness for them that they got to be able to figure out. So they're going to have to shoot the 3 well. I think Illinois having an urgency and making every shot tough early, that is going to be a big point of emphasis, because that wasn't necessarily the case against Nebraska. Now, credit to them for hitting some deep threes and getting it going, but you want to make them start to feel that crowd, start to reel a little bit, start to question themselves when they're in this building and what they're in for the rest of the night.
Yeah, Nebraska started out really well from 3. Was it 3
of their first 4?
First 4, okay.
For a team that was shooting like 23% from 3 in their Big Ten games before that, so you never really know.
The math says that wouldn't continue for the rest of the game, and it did not, thankfully for Illinois. But, what do you think it is with Houston? Clearly the talent is there, but as Brian Underwood pointed out after the Nebraska game, having veterans, that are able to step up in big moments is super important. And are we just seeing that maybe more with, after COVID, more guys taking those extra years and that level of play in college basketball just being that much tougher for freshmen maybe having to adjust to?
Yeah, you said it right there. And we've seen it even with Io coming in as a marquee player, as a freshman, and that's kind of a difference where it might be a little bit easier to settle into a complementary role. Maybe you're coming off the bench like Curbelo did last year, or Adam Miller wasn't asked to do a ton. He wasn't your star player, but he would have a lot of good looks from the corner. But upping the level of competition, being a very big focal point on a scouting report, Io had, especially in that first half of his freshman year, some struggles shooting-wise. You look at Max Christie at Michigan State, a 5-star guy that has not had the consistency of maybe you would have expected right away. And Houston's just simply missed a lot of good shots. I've seen that on film. And maybe his shot selection, he's aggressive with it. I'll say that. He's going to get his clips up. He's looking for it, and they need him to be looking for his shot. But a guy that did ultimately reclass, so you could even say he should be in high school for one more season. So that's something that's played into it, but it's still early on, and them not having their veterans, you said it right there, that is such a value that I think sometimes we maybe get caught up in the talent and the recruiting rankings. Old teams win, especially when you're talking about early on figuring things out. Illinois was able to step right into this year. I know the injuries messed that thing up, but for the most part, once they got everybody on the court minus Curbelo, were able to hit their stride. It's been tougher for Michigan to do that.
Yeah. Seeing the veterans step up for Illinois this year has been such a treat from our perspective, and it's been super intriguing, at least for me, to see how that is going to play an effect into how deep they go into the postseason. I mean, this team came in with lofty expectations, and the veterans are going to have to keep playing to the level that they have been to get to where they want to go. It's going to make it interesting down this stretch. But as we kind of close things out here, Derek, we're getting closer. Fans are starting to file in. I'm already getting excited, getting goosebumps for the game. It should be a lot of fun. What are just some of your last thoughts before we get into the score predictions about what people should look out for tonight?
I think Illinois needs to really go out their guards, something that you start to dig into the recent results from Michigan, and they've been burned by some pretty good guards. Geo Baker has season high 27 against them. You look at some of the analytic numbers, Michigan's not very good at guarding the pick and roll, and it kind of makes sense similar to Illinois. Hunter's not going to be able to get out and hedge and cut off driving lanes, so he's not the most mobile big in the world. And Eli Brooks has been a solid defender in the past. He hasn't done as well at that end, and Devante Jones, not the most athletic guy, so I think that Trent Frazier's quickness can break him down. I'd look for Trent to just come out with a lot of aggression and try to stay on that heater, break him down off the dribble, and then Alfonso Plummer, I think that he gets it going tonight. So try to put some points on the board with the guards. You understand that Kofi and Dickinson's going to be an important matchup. And another thing in terms of matchups, one potential problem that I see for Illinois is Moussa Diabate. They're 5-star power forward, 6'11", and when you look at Illinois' starting group, I don't think that him against Grandison or him against Devonte Williams would be a very good matchup because they play high-low and almost in the reverse order, in that Dickinson's on the perimeter and they're trying to post up fours with Diabate. So I think this is a big game for Coleman Hawkins. There's already a spotlight on him for his comments anyway, but he's going to have to step up and be able to defend him, be able to box him out, because Diabate can really get after it on the offensive glass. Those are some things I'm really looking for. If they can contain Diabate and have Illinois' guards continue to play at a high level, I would look for Illinois to get the job done.
All right, Illinois, 9.5-point favorites, Derek. Yeah, that's what the people in Vegas are putting it at. What do you think is going to be the final score in this one?
I have Illinois 78, Michigan 66. I think Illinois punches them in the mouth early. And I just think that Michigan's walking into a buzzsaw, in my opinion. I think Hunter Dickinson's going to look around, not see Franz Wagner and Livers and Shondi Brown and veterans that were on that squad and say, oh boy, I maybe said too many words this summer based on how these fans are ready for me and along with this team as well.
And man, that would set up for a really fun matchup, I think, back in Ann Arbor then later in the season. If Illinois is able to win by double digits, Michigan would want it that much more in the end. I hate that you said that score because I feel like that's so close to what mine would be. I'm going to go 80-69, I think. So I think Illinois is going to get a few more points. I think there's going to be just a little bit more scoring, but I still think Illinois is going to cover in this one. I think that should hit the over as well, 143. I think there's going to be a lot of points in this one. But man, I'm so excited for it, man. I'm getting the goosebumps, the butterflies now, Derek. But before we end here, what should people do in the hour from right now until the game starts? What should they go and read maybe on IlliniInquirer.com?
I've got my 3 keys in a pick, so the full breakdown of this matchup. Also wrote an article about what Coleman had to say and just kind of the way this rivalry has developed into what it is now. And Joey did a feature as well on Coleman Hawkins and him finding his role, and has been a really productive rebounder here of late. We'll have all the coverage, Joey, Jeremy, and myself after this game with reactions and analysis on this one, and also a podcast as well.
All right, look out for it, guys. But listen to 2 podcasts. Listen to the 3-in-1 podcast as well. We'll have that after the game for you, too. It's Full Court Friday, too, so if you want to know what happens in the Illinois game, know what happens in your local high school game, tune in tonight. 10 o'clock, Full Court Friday. Brett Behrens will be at the desk. I'll be live here with your recap of what happens in Illinois, Michigan. And just like Derek said, you can check the podcast out as well at WCIA 3-in-1 Pod, all your favorite podcast streaming networks. This one should be fun. 8 o'clock tip-off. This one is on FS1 if you're looking for it on TV. You didn't get a ticket here. There might still be some floating around if you want to make it here, but it is sold out, so good luck. Get here safely if you listen to Brad Underwood's encouragement before the game, and we're excited to see you here. All right, enjoy tip-off, everyone, and we'll see you after the game.